This is one of my more favorite lectures. I think power is so fascinating, and we don't talk about it enough, and we don't talk about it how it affects our communication style. So let's break this down. We're going to be talking about the definitions. We're going to be talking about types of power, balance theory, and cognitive dissonance. And I know a lot of you have heard about that, but let's see how much you remember. So, power is, well, what is it to you? If I were to tell you power, what would you say? Uh, Power to make things happen, power to pay for things. Isn't money power? Certainly, the president is powerful. And ultimately, it is the potential to influence. It plays a role in every relationship we have with friends, families, coworkers. And the amount of power we exert depends on our relationship with the other person. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. So, the effect. So, what does power affect? Well, it affects our respect of others. If somebody is absolutely powerless, sometimes we pity them, sometimes they disgust us. Power affects our fear of other people, our feelings of confidence or dependence, our decisions about whose company we seek, and even our own vulnerability. Power determines control, which individuals we're able to control, which individuals are able to control us, and even whether we are comfortable being in or out of control. Consider this: significant other picks you up and says, "I've got a surprise." How comfortable do you feel? How well do we know this person? A significant other doesn't particularly mean that we've been dating them for 5 years. Could be dating them for a month, and this is the first time they've done that. Are we not totally comfortable being out of control? People we're able to control. I always love to bring this up uh, when we are maybe out with our friends and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm hungry. We should go out to eat." And you suggest a place to eat, and everybody goes, and everybody loves it. We feel powerful, right? We feel good. We're like, "Aha, of course, I've got great taste," right? But what about if we change that around? What if the service was awful that day? Somebody pulled out a hair from their meal, they mischarged you and charged you double for something. We don't feel good. We feel a little bit powerless. We understand that we have lost that ability to influence. We've lost that ability to kind of control our world. Another story: we may have all had that friend in our life who kind of decided everything for us, where we're going, who we're hanging out with, where we're eating, what you're wearing, really everything. How long did we really hang out with that person? We want to feel this power in our life. We want to have kind of this control. We do not want to constantly feel powerless, although certainly to a point, sometimes it's nice to be able to trust somebody enough to feel that way with them. So, persuasion is the act or fact of persuading someone or being persuaded to do or believe something. It's a means of persuading someone to do or believe something, an argument or an inducement. Through power, we can persuade people. And how often in our lives do we attempt to influence or persuade people? I could be all the persuading you all did last week when you turned in your me, myself, and I videos, right? Or your mirror, mirror on the wall. Isn't there a little persuasion involved in that? I really hope my teacher gives me a good grade. Where does that power come from? From education, from creativity, from the social relationship that you and I have. So there's different types of power that we use in order to persuade people. For example, reward. Great example here. I have a lot of power in our relationship because I can reward you with something. And that something is a letter A on your transcript, right? Absolutely, that is a type of power. On the other hand, there's coercive power. This is the ability to deliver negative consequences. So, for example, if I was your boss, well, I could fire you, and that is consequences, right? You keep on showing up late, I'm going to fire you, right? Expert skills, right? Now, there may be somebody in your life who is particularly good at something. Maybe it's um, maybe it is great at computers, great with cars, fixing them. Maybe it's outfits or makeup, and you are going to them, or maybe they're coming to you for that kind of expert information, giving you a little bit of a type of power. And maybe you're turning it into a side gig, and suddenly you got people coming here and giving you some money, and that's another type of power, isn't it? Legitimate power, the type of power in which one party in a relationship controls the other. Your boss is a great example of this. Somebody put that person in power over you. It's a legitimate power because you all have technically engaged in this relationship together, and the boss or the owner of the company or whoever it is put that person in charge, and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, that's my boss, right? And then there's referent. Referent is when we have a lot of respect or identification with the power holder. So, for example, maybe it's an older sister, or perhaps it's a religious person or a grandparent that you have a lot of respect for them. It could even be a celebrity in this case, I'd say, right? You see a celebrity wearing a certain type of shoes, you might be more likely to buy those shoes. And then, of course, there's persuasive. Sometimes we're just able to use our words through Aristotle's modes of persuasion, pathos, emotion, ethos, credibility or character, and logos, logic, right? In order to get the other person to act in a desired way. So, out of these types, reward, coercive, expert, legitimate, referent, and persuasive, what do you think is the easiest to obtain and why? Easiest to obtain, not particularly to use. I wonder if that's changed for me over the years. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of our theories. The first one we're going to talk about is the balance theory. And so we need consistency in our feelings. In this psychology of motivation, balance theory is a theory of attitude change. It conceptualizes the cognitive consistency motive as a drive towards psychological balance. And we're going to talk about balance again in cognitive dissonance. The consistency motive is the urge to maintain one's values and beliefs over times. It's been proposed that the sentiment or liking relationships are balanced if the affect valence in a system multiplies out to a positive result. Okay, so what the heck do I mean by that? I mean, okay, the P is me. All right, the O is another person and the X is an object. So let's play a little game here. The P is me, the other person is Kim Kardashian, and the X here is Quick Trim. How do we feel about Kim Kardashian? Well, certainly we're going to have a lot of different feelings about this, right? So here I am, I got Kim Kardashian, and let's just say that, well, I like that Quick Trim. I've tried it a couple times. Basically just my coffee in the morning. I've never tried it. I really don't know what it is. Don't use this as a legitimate power for buying this product. I don't even know if it's still on the market, but let's just play a game, okay? So Quick Trim, let's say I'm positive to that. I have positive feelings for it, okay? But Kim Kardashian, I have negative feelings for, okay? So what I might do is I might say, gosh, well, Kim Kardashian isn't that bad after all, right? Because I like X, and here she's being attached to this product, to this I've already forgotten the name, Extreme Burn, QuickTime, right? So she's being associated with that person. So I can decide Kim Kardashian really isn't that bad. Or I might decide, oh, well, you know what? It's not like she created the product. She's just a spokesperson. It has nothing to do with QuickTime. right? So I could cut off that link, right? And it could, if I have a really tough time with Kim Kardashian, if I really didn't like her, it might actually affect my feelings toward QuickTime. We can turn this the other way. I'm positive towards Kim Kardashian, but I've tried QuickTime. Well, maybe I might say, maybe I should try it again. Think about a restaurant that maybe you went to, wasn't great, but your best friend loves. You'd be like, oh, maybe I'll try that restaurant again. You said you like it a lot. I like you. Maybe it's not that bad, right? We do this all the time. And then sometimes we might be like, oh, I love you, but you have horrible taste in restaurants, and I am not going to that restaurant again, right? We do these things all the time because we want that kind of balance. There's a lot of different products that you could think about this, pizzas. Papa John, I don't know if you all remember this, was several years ago at this point, got in some trouble for using racial slurs. I, Stephen Curry, he's a pretty popular hometown hero, but certainly not always popular other places. And here we've got Under Armour. We've got over here one of my favorite Audrey Hepburns. And in the 90s, Jennifer Love Hewitt did a movie about her. I hated the movie. And ever since then, Jennifer Love Hewitt has not been held in high esteem because of me. And really, that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But here we are. So I'm constantly trying to be in this balance. That brings us to our next theory, cognitive dissonance. So the theory of cognitive dissonance offers another approach to explain how we compensate when we find ourselves doing things that fail to fit with what we know, or have opinions that fail to fit with what other opinions we hold. So cognitive dissonance is the averse motivational state that occurs when an individual entertains two or more contradictory attitudes, beliefs, values, or behaviors simultaneously. The opposite of cognitive dissonance is balance. So, the most famous way that we like to talk about cognitive dissonance is through smoking, right? So here I am. Here's a very young Gail Kirk. I'm sorry to tell y'all that I used to smoke, right? Now, intellectually, I know that smoking is unhealthy. It is not good for me, right? But I was still smoking cigarettes. So I knew it was bad, but I'm still doing it. So I am in a state of dissonance because what I know and what I'm doing are not matching up. So I basically have two options here. Well, I quit smoking. Eventually I did, right? Cigarette smoking is unhealthy and I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. It's been several years, so no hate mail here. Or I could do what I absolutely did is I changed my belief. I said, well, gosh, my grandmother smoked till she was 95 and she did not die of lung cancer. She was just fine. Kirks are just built differently. And that is absolutely what I told myself for years, right? And that's how I got into this balance. Now, eventually, of course, I did change my action and I do feel much better about it now. But we do this a lot. And in fact, I feel now it's of course one of those theories that is a little hard to prove, but I don't know if you've been following the news with the measles outbreak in Texas, and perhaps this will be a little triggering for certainly the parents I'm about to talk about. There was a group of people down in Texas who did not get their children vaccinated from the measles, and a 6-year-old girl died because of the measles. And her father, who was the one who did not want her to be vaccinated, said that he still agrees with this decision and that the measles isn't that bad. His daughter died. I can almost tell you right now that he is in cognitive dissonance. He is changing his belief in order to get that balance. But how do you look at a child and say they died and say it's not that bad? Wow, it's kind of deep and dark, but here we are. So it was created in 1957. It's actually got a wonderful backstory about death cults and why some people stayed in the death cult even after like quote unquote, the day they were all going to be taken up by the aliens and moved up to space, why they didn't stop believing after that date went on. But some of the ways, or some of the ways that what we need in order to stay unbalanced, there has to be an aversion to change, right? When I was smoking, it was very uncomfortable for me to quit smoking, right? So I didn't really want to. I'd get really moody. I'd start to fiend cigarettes, right? There has to be the option for me to quit or to not quit. If somebody said, nope, Gail, you still need to smoke, I don't care, it is a requirement, I might kind of say, no, it's not. So there has to be that. And there also has to be the insufficient external justification. So, like, what I mean is an external justification is something has to have, like, for me to quit smoking at the time, there had to be a big thing outside of myself that would make me want to quit smoking. If you're a Friends watcher, great example is when Phoebe paid Chandler $7,000 to quit smoking, and this was in the 90s, so that's probably worth about at least $12,000 today, is my guess. I would absolutely have quit smoking for $12,000. That would have been a sufficient external justification. So we kind of need this. It's actually a really fun thing to look into if you go back and look at what kind of caused this this theory to be creative. It can be kind of a fun little rabbit hole if you're interested. I think Wikipedia probably has some fun things on it.